I was wrong. I thought removing orcs, drow, and other creatures from the monster manual was no big deal. My assumption was that replacing them with humanoid stat blocks was a victimless attempt at inclusivity, even if I thought it was kind of unnecessary. But actually, species-neutral stat blocks are bad for my 7 weekly games, and they're probably bad for yours too. So I've set about fixing it for myself, and I thought I'd share. My name is Timothy, though some people do call me Tim. Welcome to the channel. If you're constantly looking for ways to improve your tabletop role-playing games, then you're in the right place. Because I am too. So subscribe and share your experiences so that iron can sharpen iron, okay? I run 7 sessions a week currently, and my Friday game is running the Vecna Eve of Ruin module. We're having a lot of fun, but since using the new 2024 Monster Manual, I've noticed something that has always slipped past me before. Perhaps in preparation for the new module, or perhaps not, Wizards of the Coast seems to have gone out of their way to include different species using the same humanoid stat block. In the first 2 chapters alone, we have human, gnome, unspecified, elf, Duergar, and Svirfneblin, and orcish NPCs, all using the same mage stat block. They all just bleed together and feel the same. Obviously they look different, particularly when I found art to represent them, but they pump out the exact same actions. And the lack of variation is really jarring in these chapters. With more species than ever being jumbled into the humanoid pool, this is more noticeable than it has ever been, which is why I finally caught the hint. So now I'm doing something that I should have taken the time to do a decade ago. I'm adding species traits to my NPCs. But I'm not adding all of them, particularly for a throwaway NPC that is likely an enemy combatant and incredibly unlikely to survive contact with my players. Adjusting every stat block felt daunting to me, so instead I created a little 3x5 and wrote down the traits that I was going to use. Ones that could be easily added on to provide a player-facing flavor. Because you don't need to add all of the species traits, because plenty of those traits would never impact the interaction between the creature and the player, at least not in a significant enough way for them to recognize that there is a difference between these NPCs. And creating a recognizable species difference is really the goal here. So my list just includes what I feel encapsulates and shows the species to the player. Your list might look different, and that's cool. If you have a different method of differentiating species so that your players can notice it, I'd love to hear about it, so don't forget to leave a comment with that. Some of the items on my list do adjust the power level of the critters, but not usually by a lot. I feel like the flavor boost is worth it for the added difficulty and complexity. So here are the traits that I felt were appropriately player-facing or important, and that were still few enough to fit on my 3x5 card, though I do write kind of small. I've included all of the player's handbook species as well as the ones that were removed from the monster manual, but you could just as easily add other bipeds like goblins, for instance, to your list, if you want to use NPC stat blocks to represent them. My goal was to keep the lists as simple as possible for myself at this stage. And so whenever there are numerous options, I've tried to pick a generic trait that suggests the race without going down the rabbit hole of picking every trait from the PHB related to one subspecies. For the Aasimar, I just added the Celestial Revelation ability to flame on, but just to add the additional proficiency damage to 1 attack per turn, and the once a day bonus action ability to gain flight, as well as of course 60-foot dark vision. For the deep gnome, they got 120-foot dark vision, advantage on wisdom, intelligence, and charisma saving throws, and the blur spell once a day. For Dragonborn, 60-foot dark vision and a simple breath weapon, as well as resistance to that breath weapon. And for ease, I made it a D10 breath weapon with as many D10 as their proficiency modifier, up to 4, and setting a simple DC with the usual math of 8 plus proficiency plus constitution. Drow get 120-foot dark vision, fairy fire, and darkness once per day. Duergar gets 20-foot dark vision, enlarge on themselves once per day, and invisibility once per day. While traditional dwarves get the same 120-foot dark vision, poison resistance, and the tremor sense bonus action ability for 10 minutes once per day. Elves get 60-foot dark vision and Misty Step once per day, rather than all of the options that we could have picked from there. Gnomes just get the advantage on Wisdom, Intelligence, and Charisma saving throws and 60-foot dark vision, while Goliath get the Stone's Endurance that was the old classic of reducing damage by 1d12 plus con twice per day, and the bonus action ability to grow to large size and gain 10 feet to their movement speed once per day for a minute. Halflings, I just gave the naturally stealthy ability to hide with just cover instead of needing total cover, but I also considered giving them the ability to reroll natural ones. I'm just not sure that it's going to show up often enough to be that important. Humans get 1 heroic inspiration to use, and Lizardfolk get to Frenzied Bite, a bite as a bonus action that does 1d6 plus their strength mod of damage and gives them their proficiency bonus of temporary hit points. Orcs get the Relentless Endurance ability to drop to 1 hit point instead of 0 the first time it happens to them per day, and Adrenaline Rush to dash as a bonus action and gain proficiency modifier temporary hit points, as well, of course, as 120-foot dark vision. And finally, Tiefling gets 60-foot dark vision, resistance to either poison, necrotic, or fire damage, and I just gave them a once-a-day Hellish Rebuke that does damage matching to their resistance instead of giving all the different options. Obviously, I used my own shorthand in order to write these on my 3x5, and did my best to write as small as possible. But if you'd like, you can get my list as a free member on my Patreon or over on my Discord server. Thanks for watching to the end. Here's your cat video reward. I'll see you in the next video.